Mickey, we're here. It's during Ramadan, and for yourself as a former Pakistan coach, you worked with the squad during Ramadan. When you first went into Pakistan, how much did you know about the culture and Ramadan in general?
Well, I think the key was getting to know the culture, and I was blown away by the morals, the values. The culture was just so pure and so good. And Ramadan is obviously a very, very important time in the Muslim faith. And watching the players, because we actually played quite a lot of cricket during Ramadan, and incidentally during Ramadan we were always very successful. We won the Champions Trophy during Ramadan. We won a Test match at Lord's during Ramadan, and I think another Test match at Lord's as well. So we generally had a lot of success there. But the thing that stood out for me was the players' commitment to their faith and their commitment to Ramadan. It was actually very interesting to see, but also very, very stimulating just watching how the players adapted to that. It was amazing.
Yeah, and as a coach, what do you have to take into account during that time in order to make sure that the players could kind of maintain maximum performance?
Well, it was very interesting because we were playing some high-profile games during that stage. I remember having the conversation once with Misbah and Yunus, and Misbah and Yunus said, "Coach, you don't change anything. We'll be okay." And I was just amazed at the fact that the guys could train at the intensity they did and play at the intensity they did, and observing Ramadan at exactly the same time. It was, I'm looking for a word. It was just so, I was just so envious and just so proud of how they handled the whole situation.
Yeah, and you talk about there, you won the Champions Trophy during Ramadan. That's a really special memory for yourself. But what is it like for the group at that time when they're all kind of celebrating not just the Champions Trophy but also observing Ramadan?
Yeah, look, to be fair, when we got back to the hotel, we sort of went our own ways after we won the Champions Trophy. But the thing that stood out for me was the players' discipline around Ramadan. The faith that they felt during that period of time, and the belief that they had in that faith that they would be fine and they would get by without eating and drinking during a test match was amazing. Now, of course, as I learned more about the faith, you are allowed to buy days back. So if you're playing in a test match, you actually are allowed to eat and drink if you choose to. But then you've got to buy another day back later. So some players did choose to buy where they felt that it would impact on their performances. So you'd have some guys that would observe Ramadan and fast in all the training days, or the whole group virtually, in all the training days, and then match days they would eat and then pay that back at the end. But however, there were some guys, and I think of Misbah Haq, I think of Yunus Khan, I think of Mohammed Rizwan, who over that period of time observed Ramadan, irrespective of whether they were playing games of cricket or not. And again, it was just so stimulating just to watch how they went about their business, and to understand the performances that they had over that period of time was virtually done with no food or water or anything. It was absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, and just on that, are there any individual performances that you can think of during Ramadan that really stood out to you as inspirational?
Look, there were a lot of inspirational performances during that time. I remember Misbah got 100 at Lord's in 2016. I'm just trying to think if 2016 was actually during Ramadan. I know that the 2018 series was during Ramadan. No, I'm not 100% sure, but there were certainly a lot of performances where you sat back and you went, wow, to do that virtually with no energy level and no energy base was just testimony to their skill, but also testimony to their powers of concentration, but above all was the discipline that went with it, and I was absolutely blown away.
Yeah, and this is something you've talked about in other interviews before, even wider than Ramadan. Whenever you've gone into a national side, you've really strived to learn about the culture. I know that also when you were with Sri Lanka, you learned a lot about the history of the nation. Why is that something you're so passionate about and something that you really try to do?
Because I think the cultures that you build are certainly based around something, and I would say with Pakistan, it's based around their faith. Their faith is very, very important to them. I remember having some conversations with players, talking about their batting or their bowling or whatever performance, whatever it might be. But I certainly understood that faith was the most important driver in all their lives, and cricket came second. And in other cultures, it's different. So I think before you can make decisions and decide the journey you want to take the team on, you've certainly got to understand the cultures that go with it. And I mean, just getting to understand the Muslim faith was I found was incredible. I had a taste of it with Hashim Amla with South Africa. Now, if there was some, and there were lots in the Pakistan team, whose culture, values, morals epitomised such high quality. Hashim Amla in the South African dressing room was one. He was amazing. He's just the way he lived his life, and it epitomised his faith, and it was really, really eye-opening for all of us just to see the way he lived their life. His life was totally in parallel to his faith, and it was amazing to see.